Former Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein is vowing to push forward with recount efforts in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. She faced a setback in Pennsylvania this weekend when it required a $1 million bond for recount proceedings in state court. She's now pursuing that case in federal court. And she's also pushing back on charges from President-elect Donald Trump, who this weekend called her recount push a, quote, scam. In a news conference outside Trump Tower Monday, Dr. Stein said Mr. Trump has nothing to be afraid of with recounts if he believes in democracy. Dr. Jill Stein joins us now. Dr. Stein, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you, Elaine.
Do you accept the overall outcome of this election?
You know, my goal here is not to help one candidate or hurt another candidate, but rather to help the American voters feel like we have a voting system that we can believe in. As you know, this was an election that was incredibly divisive, incredibly bitter, and coming out of that, there have been some substantial questions raised about these voting machines, about their liability to human error, to machine error, to the potential for hacking. And these three states in particular have vulnerabilities with their machines. They have some questions in their irregularities. In Michigan, for example, there are 75,000 blank votes for president, which is far higher than in any prior election. So there are just some red flags here. The American people just deserve to have a voting system that we can have confidence in. And once we see the ballots, you know, the chips will fall from there.
Have you been presented with any evidence of either a voting machine malfunctioning or that a voting machine was hacked?
So we know that these voting machines regularly malfunction. We know one of the expert witnesses on our case has hacked into these machines, machines exactly like those that are used in this election. They have proven in the laboratory that with a college degree in computer programming, it's pretty easy to hack into them. So there's definitely proof that they are wide open to hacking, but also even without the hacking, they are wide open to just calibration error, machine and human error. And in this day and age, you know, we shouldn't have to have an all-out crisis in order to have transparency and accountability with the vote. And that's what we're calling for now.
You're saying a crisis, and yet 74% of Americans say they believe that Donald Trump was legitimately elected. That's according to a Washington Post ABC News poll. So for whom are you speaking when you are pushing for these recounts?
So, you know, a majority of Republicans, by another poll, I believe it's a Pew poll, say that they think that this information would be very helpful to affirm that Donald Trump won and to install confidence in his victory. And, you know, that's what transparency and accountability are all about. And coming out of this very bitter election, it's a logical thing to do. It's a step forward that we can take. It should not just be this election, it should be in every election. This ought to be the standard.
Donald Trump has been going after your recount efforts. He tweeted Sunday, quote, "The Green Party just dropped its recount suit in Pennsylvania and is losing votes in Wisconsin recount. Just a Stein scam to raise money." Now, you've raised $7.2 million for recount efforts, which is more than double what you raised during your presidential run. What do you say to people who look at that and say this is just about raising money?
Well, the money raised here can only be spent on the recount. So it is raised in a dedicated recount segregated account. It is only for the recount and can be for nothing more than that. People can find the whole budget for the recount on our webpage, jill2016.com/recount. You can find out more about it. This is another case of Donald kind of creating the facts on the fly. We, the voters, should have confidence in a voting system that welcomes citizen input, scrutiny, watchdogging, yet this is a system where we have to have a bake sale on steroids to raise $7 million just for the privilege of ensuring that our vote is accurate, that it has been adequately counted, and that we can have confidence in the result. What is wrong with this picture? This is not what democracy looks like.
What should we, though, read into the fact that you're only calling for recounts in states that Donald Trump won?
So as I said, in Michigan, that was not the case. We called for the recount before Michigan had been decided. So that's just not true. But I would be the first to say that if we find evidence that there's been, say, systemic failure on the part of these machines, that recount should be extended, that we should know the full extent of machine error, human error, hacking, whatever it is. If there's a problem in these 3 states, we need to explore further and see how far that goes.
All right, Dr. Jill Stein, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.